Welcome. Episode 4 of Room 2740. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to all my friends and colleagues who I asked for feedback for from the first 3 episodes, and some really amazing feedback came in, and I'm hoping, upon hope, that you will see those changes utilized in this and the upcoming episodes. So for those of you just joining and who don't know about Room 2740, let me explain to you what it's all about. So Room 2740 is a vlog that I am doing to give an insight or a peek behind the curtain as to how I am growing alongside my wife, how I'm growing my main business, but also the work that I do in an advisory role, helping other businesses that I work with to grow as well. Why 2740? Well, it came from a conversation that my wife and another friend were having, where they're saying if you wanted to make £1 million in a year, you'd have to make £2,740 a day. Or if you wanted to be able to reach 1 million people in a year, day by day, it'd be 2,740. So the whole spirit of 2740 is not just about getting to 1 million, because, once you get to 1 million, what happens then? But it's about that spirit of abundance. It's about how do we build and create systems that allow us to be really abundant in the way that we reach people, the way that we impact people, and the way that we are able to build revenue as well. In this week's episode, what I'd like to talk about is my role as an executive coach. And lots of people say to me, David, you're an executive coach. What exactly does that mean? So let me tell you exactly what I do as an executive coach. Before I get there, let me take it back. So I'm actually not a qualified coach. Sometimes people are really surprised by that. They're like, oh, what do you mean you're not a qualified coach? Didn't you go through ICF and AC and all these kinds of, different coaching bodies? And the truth is I haven't. I've been able to build a coaching business based on the coaching tools that I've learned along the way. Working with some amazing coaches as well. And I also have supervision to make sure that I'm, by coaches myself, we make sure that I'm protecting individuals. I do my own learning and have my constant professional learning. So I know that when I'm working with clients, what I don't want to do is I don't want to damage them. But the key result for me, or the key marker for me, is the results for my actual clients. So even though I'm not qualified, and even though I do work with a lot of coaches who are qualified, and I'm supervised by qualified coaches, for me it's really about the impact and the effect that I have for my coaching clients. So what does it mean to be an executive coach? So if I break it down for you, an executive coach is essentially a coach who works alongside senior members of an organization. Usually it can be a vice president, president, a director, a managing director, a CEO, or any of the other C's, so CIO, CFO, or any other thing in the C-suite. And we tend to deal with those senior decision makers who are making big decisions for their companies, who are usually handling huge budgets and have to make big decisions. So the majority of my clients in executive coaching tend to work in corporate, and in that way they can, I charge a relatively substantial fee. So in that way there is not we're not having a big discussion about fee, because we know how it can tie into the bottom line, how it can tie into making sure that that leader is doing the work really well. So there are 3 key areas that I'm usually approached on around executive coaching and the areas that I work on. So the first of that is primarily around leadership. So how does a managing director, CEO, CTO, what have you, how do they get to lead their team really effectively? Whether that's in times of change, or whether that's a sense of self-exploration, so that they can find out from themselves what are the leadership skills or traits or ways that they can work really well. And so that tends to be the first one, where lots of individuals may be referred to me, or I may have a conversation as to ask them, what are the things or what are the tools that they're using to be a really effective leader in their organization, or the direct reports that come through to them. And using a number of tools and assessments and reports and feedback, we work usually on a minimum for me is a 3 to 6 month basis, preferably 6 months, because I think you can see growth over that time. It's really important to be able to do that. And so then we start to think about different theories and different approaches around how they can deal around strategy as well as operation, managing motivation, handling conflict, and all these kinds of things that will help them to lead their team to the next level. And we will agree on specific outcomes as to what that leader wants to be able to attain in that period, and then we'll work towards that specific direction. The second one that I'm approached to deal with executive coaching is around performance. where often there may be a leader who is in an organization, and other members or colleagues may realize that there may be some fine-tuning or tweaking around the way that they perform. And so that performance may be around productivity, it may be around tying up loose ends, it may be around the way that they communicate with other members of staff. And we fine-tune that performance. We have a deep dive into the stuff that they've already done, really explaining or exploring, should I say, what has worked, and then making sure that we can build on that to make it even better. And again, we have targets as to what that performance actually looks like. Those ones tend to be quite intense, because if you are moving to be more productive or retain more staff or create more profit, those ones can be quite intense. But again, over a 6-month period, we tend to map out what those goals are. Again, using assessments and different tools. The coaching sessions are really about how do you raise that level of performance. And then the last one is around presentation. So a lot of leaders will come to me saying, look, I have to do investor meetings, I have to speak for town halls, I've got to speak for conferences, more or less now virtual more than anything else. And David, I need somebody who has experience in being able to coach people as to how to craft a narrative, how to develop presentations and slides, how to be able to take people on a journey, bring massive calls to action, understand my tone and my pace, how I present virtually or on stage, all these things that people will ask. And again, that can be from 3 to 6 months, or sometimes it might just even be a day. A leader may come to me and go, right, I need a really intense coaching session for a day. Can you work me through this presentation that I have to do? And we'll do it from there. So those are the 3 main areas that I do around executive coaching. And I think I said, in the interest of transparency, I think I said, in a previous video that I have, my rate, and I'm going to be really open for those who are looking to understand this, my rate starts at 3,000, but can go all the way up to 15,000, depending on the needs and the outcomes of the actual clients. I'm actually revisiting my business model, because a lot of people have told me that for the work that I do and the reputation that I have, I should be charging more. And recognizing that for people who are coming to me, they're coming for a specific outcome. So don't be afraid to do that. So, I'm really sitting down and reviewing what my price structure looks like for the next year or beyond. And so that executive coaching is, again, as I said, is specifically aimed at individuals who are working in growing and developing companies, who have a really healthy budget. For smaller businesses, I usually tend to work with organizations that have over £1 million in revenue, so that I'm not fussing and fighting over fees. But in terms of the larger corporate clients that I work for, they're usually in excess of 100 million a year in terms of the actual balance sheet. And usually I can go and I can check that company's balance sheet to know exactly how much, their annual reports to see how much revenue they are, so we're not quibbling over price. But essentially that's it. What I think I will do in a future episode, I will start to talk about some of the tools that I use as an executive coach and some of the methodology that I have in place as well. But I thought for this session, I would just tell you, what does it look like as an executive coach? And also the last bit I do before I do the tools. Those 6 sessions usually are maybe 90 minutes, because usually I'm trying to get people's attention and make sure that they stay present. It can be about 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes. We have top-ups in between, so that a client can pick up and call me and say, David, I'm having a bit of a challenge around this meeting, or I'm having a bit of a conflict with this person. Can you quickly take a call with me? We'll sit down, we'll explore some of those issues. But generally speaking, we have a 60 to 90 minute session where I sit down, ask a lot of questions, really explore, dig deep into some of the key issues that are coming up here, and we explore together how, as an executive, you can move that forward and come to a real strong result as an end result of it. It's about honesty, it's about transparency. Sometimes we can go really deep, it can get quite personal, we can go back and look at some of the historic stuff that may be stopping you from moving forward. But again, always done in a safe space. And as I said, for myself, I'm supervised to make sure that I don't step over my boundaries. But essentially, that's it. I hope that's been helpful. And I hope the introduction to kind of like explain to those who haven't seen this before have been really helpful as well. So please continue to stay tuned, locked in. As I said, I really want to be able to share this story and build this library so people can be empowered as they're building their own consultancy or small businesses, or just are really curious as to how a business like mine is developing into becoming quite a profitable and big company over the next few years. Thank you very much for listening, and see you in the next episode. Peace.